Ling Mingxing had long forgotten he was still in a battle. The menacing attack aimed at him had already dissipated the moment Xian Muqing appeared. Qinger, is it really you? This isn't an illusion, is it? I never imagined I'd see you again in my lifetime. It's wonderful, he murmured, a faint, bitter smile forming on his lips. Standing in the waterfall's cascade was the very person he had yearned for, night and day. No. Xian Muqing's heart surged with shock and disbelief. Though she didn't understand why Ling Mingxing was there, in the next moment, she saw a shadowy figure closing in on him, carrying a terrifying energy even she couldn't counter. She suppressed her rising emotions and surged forward, hoping to intervene. Too late to pull back now. Xian Yin, who had intended to hold back upon hearing the princess's voice, found himself helpless as his attack struck Ling Mingxing, who was caught off guard, defenseless. Blood spurted from Ling Mingxing's mouth, his aura dimming further after the brutal impact. Why are you so foolish? In an instant, Xian Muqing appeared beside him, cradling him gently with her delicate hands. Am I dreaming? Ling Mingxing, hearing her familiar voice, whispered in disbelief. But the intense pain within and the warmth radiating from her figure startled him back to reality. All these years, you've endured so much. Qinger, Xian Muqing's face, pale from the rush of emotions, flickered with joy, quickly replaced by a pang of guilt. Where have you been all this time? Ling Mingxing's powerful frame trembled slightly, struggling to confirm that this was real, not a mere illusion. I searched everywhere for you. Xian Muqing faltered, as if words failed her. Sure enough, Fan Tian and his group arrived just then, their expression softening upon seeing Xian Muqing holding Ling Mingxing. But there's something strange about Xian Muqing's aura, Fan Tian noted, his perceptive gaze picking up the peculiarity immediately. Yes, it seems like the presence of the extraterritorial evil clan, Bamboo Ash muttered, unable to hold back. Bamboo Ash, watch your mouth. Ling Mingxing snapped, furious. He had finally reunited with his wife, and now Bamboo Ash was. But even before he finished, Bamboo Ash's words lingered in Xian Muqing's ears. Dream, what Bamboo Ash said is true. Xian Muqing forced herself to speak, her defiant gaze locked onto Ling Mingxing. She knew it was impossible to hide this from him. Sooner or later, he would find out. Impossible! Ling Mingxing's body shuddered, staring at her in utter disbelief. Curse that Ling Mingxing. His strength has somehow soared to the peak Do-D level. Our mission seems doomed, Xian Yin murmured to his brother, Xian Yang. Brother, we can't let Princess Xian be taken by Ling Mingxing. And if he finds out what's within her, Xian Yang's face was dark with concern. What happened wasn't her choice. When the extraterritorial evil clan invaded, she was just, Xian Yin trailed off, exchanging tense glances with Ling Mingxing and Xian Muqing. In the distance, he noticed a group of 5 approaching, exuding an imposing strength. Dream, Fan Tian's figure flickered, appearing by Ling Mingxing's side. He understood Ling Mingxing completely. His parents had fallen to the extraterritorial evil clan, fueling his deep hatred for them. Master, Ling Mingxing muttered, his heart twisting painfully as he closed his eyes, barely able to speak. Muqing, you have to understand, Fan Tian began, aware that Ling Mingxing needed to work through this himself. But he's spent years. Elder, I know. I just want to know if my 2 daughters are safe. Xian Muqing's voice was laced with pain, though she concealed the full depth of her sorrow. Few could fathom the anguish she endured. Qinger, welcome home. In a flash, determination sparked in Ling Mingxing's eyes. The hesitation he had shown faded, replaced by overwhelming joy as he pulled Xian Muqing into a tight embrace. Even Xian Muqing, always so resolute, felt her eyes grow misty. In the past, she had known the depth of Ling Mingxing's hatred for the extraterritorial evil clan. It ran bone deep. When she was infiltrated by their insidious power during childbirth, she hadn't dared tell him. She had even faked her own death to hide the truth. She knew if he found out, her fate would have been sealed. But now, she was grateful she hadn't misjudged him. Sob. Any last trace of pride dissolved. She clung to Ling Mingxing, her tears flowing freely. I was so scared. I thought you. She stammered between sobs. The extraterritorial evil clan is despicable, but right now, I have 2 daughters and their mother. Nothing else matters, Ling Mingxing murmured, his voice filled with relief and contentment. That fool, someone from Zhu Jin's group remarked with a gentle laugh. When the news of Xian Muqing's death had first reached Ling Mingxing, it had shattered him, leaving him in a nightmare. If not for their 2 daughters, he might have ended his own life. Finally, as Xian Muqing's emotions settled, Ling Mingxing gently held her up, noting her pallor. What happened with the extraterritorial evil clan's aura in your body? Xian Muqing gave a faint smile and swept aside the bangs shielding her forehead. A jagged blood-red mark lay stark against her skin. A 4th-tier blood curse? Fan Tian's eyes narrowed in suspicion as he immediately recognized the sinister mark. A Do Xian? Sensing the sudden surge in Fan Tian's power, Xian Yin and Xian Yang exchanged a glance, vanishing into the distance to report to the Xuanling king, aware they were no longer fit to intervene. As the brothers departed, the blood curse on Xian Muqing's forehead grew even more vivid. Pavilion Master, this blood curse? Mu Shuzi and the others drew closer, and Mu Shuzi asked the question that hung in the air. Blood curses are a common method used by the extraterritorial evil clan. They grant immense power, but at a terrible cost. Each use drains both life and soul, turning the victim into a mere puppet after enough usage, Zhu Jin explained, his gaze locked on the mark on Xian Muqing's forehead. Qinger, how did you get marked with this blood curse? Ling Mingxing asked quietly, already knowing her well enough to be certain she wouldn't willingly bear such a thing. I don't really know, she replied softly. When I gave birth to Ling Xian in Xuanling City, I felt something strange enter my body. That's when this mark first appeared on my forehead. I've kept away all these years because of it. It's incredibly evil. It even tried to take control of me. Thankfully, the protective amulet you gave me kept it at bay. It seems the extraterritorial evil clan has infiltrated Xuanling City, Fan Tian remarked grimly. Pavilion Master, is there any way to remove it? Ling Mingxing asked, a trace of desperation in his voice. Blood curses range from 1 to 7 tiers. If it were a 6th or 7th tier, I'd have no solution. But for a 4th-tier blood curse, there is a way. It will be uncomfortable for Muqing, but it's possible, Fan Tian responded after a pause. It won't put her life at risk, will it? Ling Mingxing asked anxiously. Despite his resentment toward the curse, he couldn't bear to see her suffer. In principle, no. It's mostly a matter of enduring some physical pain. But if we don't address it soon, it will only grow stronger and harder to control. Meng, don't worry. For the sake of our 2 daughters, I can handle this, Xian Muqing reassured him, understanding his concern. Pavilion Master, what must we do? Ling Mingxing asked, steeling himself. Muqing, trigger the blood curse within you. All right. Xian Muqing's face was pale, and a sinister blood curse, deep red and unsettling, pulsed on his forehead, radiating a malevolent energy. Blood curse, he muttered under his breath, as the curse's power suddenly surged, flooding his body and magnifying his strength. Sacred flame. Fan Tian stepped forward, summoning a fiery red blaze. Although this flame lacked the full potency of the sacred flame, as its seed fire, it was still far more powerful than ordinary fire. The Pavilion Master's control over the flame improves with every use, remarked one of the 2 elders of heaven and earth, casting a steady gaze over the scene. They were aware of Fan Tian's close connection with Yan Ji, so it wasn't surprising to them that he wielded the sacred flame seed fire. Focus. Clear your mind. Hold your breath. Fan Tian commanded with a steely look. I'll use the sacred flame to expel the curse from your body. I can handle it, Xian Muqing replied reassuringly to Ling Mingxing. Sensing his concern, he withdrew from his supportive embrace and followed Fan Tian's instructions with determination. Fire. Enter. With an intense focus, Fan Tian directed the energy of the sacred flame seed fire into Xian Muqing's body. As the sacred flame entered, the evil red aura from the blood curse recoiled in fear, shrinking back in the face of the flame's purifying power. It's working. Ling Mingxing cheered inwardly, though Xian Muqing's face grew even paler, beads of sweat forming as he struggled under the intense purification. "Begone!" Fan Tian roared, unleashing the overwhelming aura of a Do Xian master. The fourth-tier blood curse entwined around Xian Muqing began to crumble under Fan Tian's power and the sacred flame's purification. "Are you all right?" With Fan Tian withdrawing his hand, Ling Mingxing quickly steadied Xian Muqing, a deep affection evident in his gaze. "That curse, it's finally gone." Despite his extreme exhaustion, Xian Muqing's face was radiant with relief, a look that stirred envy in those who saw it. "Where do you think you're going?" Zhu Jin yelled as the curse, forced out of Xian Muqing's body, attempted to escape. Now exposed under a waterfall, the blood curse transformed into a shimmering red light, visible to all. Fan Tian refrained from further action, mindful of the disturbance he had already caused. With the curse expelled, he was wary of attracting the Xuanling royal family's attention and left Zhu Jin and his group to finish the task. "Be destroyed." Zhu Jin's hand flared with the force of life and death, the surrounding waterfall slowing as his power took hold. Without hesitation, he struck the blood curse's red light with fierce precision. A massive burst of destructive energy from the force of life and death obliterated the blood curse, now without a host, in a single strike. "All done," Zhu Jin said, releasing a few more blasts to ensure the curse was completely annihilated before nodding at Fan Tian. "Old Zhu, thanks." Ling Mingxing gave Zhu Jin a rare expression of gratitude. "You actually said thank you?" Zhu Jin chuckled, flashing a rare smile. "Let's move to the 5th level. Time is of the essence," Fan Tian ordered, and without further delay, the group advanced toward the 5th level of the underground palace. However, their actions had drawn attention. Fan Tian's surge of power, the curse's destruction, and the watchful eyes of Xian Yin and Xian Yang meant that their location was no longer a secret. "What?" In the Xuanling royal palace, Xian Yin and Xian Yang had rushed to report, bowing respectfully before a man clad in a golden robe. The golden-robed man radiated a strange, ancient energy. His exclamation echoed throughout the palace. This was the Xuanling king. "Who has entered the underground palace?" the Xuanling king asked again, alarmed by the news. Despite the strict security around the palace, no one had informed him of the intruder's presence. For them to slip in undetected hinted at terrifying strength. "We don't know who they all are," Xian Yang stammered, "but there were 7 of them. 7 experts, each at least at the 9-turn 9-star Do D level." The Xuanling king pondered deeply. Clearly, only the supreme sects of the mystic 3 heavens could muster such a powerful lineup. "By the way, Ling Mingxing, the master of the Incense Pavilion's Earth Hall, is among them," Xianyin suddenly remarked. "What? That lowlife?" The Xuanling king's expression darkened, his anger erupting as he struggled to contain it. He knew Ling Mingxing's hatred for the extraterritorial evil clan ran deep. To ensure his sister's safety, he had once used a small deception to keep Mingxing in the dark. If Mingxing ever discovered the truth about what lay within Xian Muqing, his temper alone would. "How is Muqing?" the Xuanling king asked, concern evident. "Princess Xian Muqing has been found by Ling Mingxing and his group," Xianyin replied. "Immediately. To the underground palace." "Move," the Xuanling king commanded sharply. A cold glint appeared in his eyes. Xian Muqing was not only one of his few supporters, but also his cousin. There was no way he would allow anything to happen to her. "Your Majesty, Ling Mingxing did find the princess, but it may not be as you expected," Xianyin hesitated, seeing the gravity of the situation. "What do you mean?" The Xuanling king's brow furrowed. "It's evident that Ling Mingxing truly cares for Princess Muqing, so," Xianyin explained cautiously. "Furthermore, it appears their purpose was not merely to rescue her. After they freed the princess, they continued deeper into the underground palace, heading toward the 5th level." Xianyin continued. Xianyin and Xian Yang guarded the 4th level, but each level had its own distinct protectors. Even they were unsure of what lay beyond. "Oh." The Xuanling king's gaze grew calculating as he quickly processed the information. The 5th level was the domain of the Blood Fiend clan's powerful remnants. These 7 were undoubtedly from the Incense Pavilion. If they discovered the remnants of the Blood Fiend clan's power, they'd likely stop at nothing to destroy it, jeopardizing his own plans. Take a rest. Remain on standby for battle, the Xuanling king ordered. Yes, sire. Xian Yin and Xian Yang acknowledged, retreating quietly. Once alone in the palace, the Xuanling king called out, "Reveal yourself." A faint crimson aura, dark and malevolent like the extraterritorial evil clan, seeped from the Xuanling king's body. Xuanling king, it seems the incense pavilion can no longer hold back. They're likely aiming for the Yin Ji in the underground palace, the crimson aura, containing the essence of the blood demon Envoy, strongest of the Blood Fiend clan, remarked. No matter. The Xuanling king chuckled ominously. The ancient mystic's eyes have long been set on the sacred flame and the Xuanling ancestor sealed by Medusa's petrifying eye. Now, I can use the incense pavilion to weaken the old relic. If I manage to slay him, the Xuanling king mused, his tone chilling and sinister. A tiger's son indeed inherits its strength, remarked the blood demon Envoy's essence. When will your true form arrive on the Xuanling continent? The Xuanling king asked, as if recalling something important. That's complicated. The Xuanling continent repels me too strongly. Even if I descend, I'll be limited to the peak Do D level, replied the blood demon Envoy. Then, the Xuanling king replied, retrieve your offspring from the 5th level of the underground palace first, or it may interfere with our plan. Agreed. The blood demon Envoy dismissed further words and vanished toward the passage behind the throne, leading to the underground palace. Solomon likely has connections with one of the ghost immortals in the ghost realm, the Xuanling king murmured to himself. And as for the Soul Clan, their true power remains shrouded in mystery, best to be cautious. The ghost realm itself is a massive unknown, and the Blood Fiend clan. When Xian Muqing gave birth, your clan dared to invade her body. I'll settle that debt with you in due time, Blood Demon Envoy. Did you truly believe I, the Xuanling king, am a fool? Your price is 2/3 of the Xuanling continent's land. But as long as your true form remains barred from here, I'll leverage the power of the extraterritorial evil clan to take control of the mystic 3 heavens. And then, a dark, crazed laughter echoed through the empty palace, his voice brimming with fanaticism. Elder Xian, the Xuanling king, sent the Dragon Devourer Legion to vie for the Do Core, but they haven't returned yet, Wenzi said, his tone cautious. Wenzi was clearly a pawn dispatched by the Xuanling king to keep an eye on Elder Xian's actions. Who knew what tempting promises the Xuanling king had made to Wenzi to secure his obedience? That wretched child. Elder Xian snapped, unable to contain his anger. Elder Xian, please, stay calm. Your health is what matters, Wenzi said carefully. Go back and tell him this. Elder Xian ordered, his voice stern. If anything goes wrong this time, I'll make him pay. With that, Elder Xian dismissed Wenzi, who quickly made his way out. As Wenzi left, deep in the heart of the underground palace, Elder Xian muttered to himself, my eyelids been twitching constantly lately. Could it be a sign of fortune? Or a dark omen? In a distant, shadowed void, the Dark Knight Ghost Immortal whispered, Old friend, take your time. I believe you'll succeed. Meanwhile, on the 2nd level of the underground palace, Xiao Yin and Mu Yingying continued their journey. After leaving the 2nd level, they struggled through the maze-like layout before finally finding the entrance to the 3rd level. At the entrance to the 3rd level, a stone wall loomed before them, surrounded by a mysterious, powerful energy. What a formidable barrier, Xiao Yin remarked as he studied the massive formation enveloping the stone wall. There was something oddly familiar about the aura emanating from it. Xiao Yin, step back, a voice warned. Just as Xiao Yin hesitated, a phantom appeared before the two of them. It was an image left behind by Zhu Jin. This, Xiao Yin realized with a jolt that this formation had been created by his master, Zhu Jin. No wonder it felt so familiar. I must go down there, Mu Yingying said, her face resolute. My brother's presence is down there. I think this may be my last chance, and I don't want to let it slip. Your brother, could it be Yin Qi? Xiao Yin ventured a daring guess as he observed her determined expression. Yin Qi? Mu Yingying was momentarily stunned before she shook her head, her expression calm. No, he isn't Yin Qi. Xiaoyan looked away, slowly shaking his head as well. With Mu Yingying possessing the power of the sacred flame, and Yin Qi also known to wield a sacred flame deep within the palace, it was all too easy to connect the two. Moreover, Zhu Jin had once borrowed the sacred flame's essence from him, presumably as part of a plan to save Yin Qi. Xiaoyan had no way of knowing how far that plan had progressed. One thing was certain, though. Zhu Jin was definitely in the underground palace. Otherwise, his formation wouldn't have been left behind on the third level. Can you break this formation? After inspecting it, Mu Yingying turned to Xiaoyan, a hopeful look in her eyes. Let me give it a shot. Understanding her urgency, Xiaoyan stepped forward. He, too, understood the longing that came with being separated from a loved one. Moments later, Xiaoyan dismantled the barrier. Though it was powerful, Zhu Jian had underestimated Xiaoyan's strength, and Xiaoyan had even devised a clever diversion to prevent Zhu Jin from sensing the breach in his own formation. All done. Xiaoyan dusted off his hands with a slight smile. Xiaoyan, can I ask you something? Mu Yingying suddenly spoke up as Xiaoyan was finishing with the formation. What is it? He replied, turning to face her. If many people were after my life, and you weren't strong enough to stop them, what would you do? Her clear eyes looked at him, filled with anticipation. If that day comes, then let them shatter my very soul. Xiaoyan looked at the space beyond the broken formation, his voice quiet but unwavering. Because we're companions. What Xiaoyan didn't realize was that these simple words would one day become his last lifeline. Thank you. I understand. Mu Yingying was taken aback by Xiaoyan's response, though she didn't dwell much on the notion of being companions. She knew all too well the sensitive nature of her identity. It was obvious. Xiaoyan's response had given Mu Yingying a clear answer. Since joining the points plundering tournament and meeting Xiaoyan, she had come to understand many beautiful aspects of humanity. But now was not the time for such thoughts. Her mind was focused solely on her brother. Let's go. Mu Yingying's face was clouded, her voice curt as she strode forward. It seems Mu Yingying is determined to descend. To be safe, I'd better call little E, Xiaoyan thought to himself. Without dwelling on Mu Yingying's moment of distraction, he quickly sent a mental signal to little E. Far off at the incense pavilion, little E sensed the call. Instantly, she awakened from her cultivation. Big brother's calling. He must be in trouble. Without a second thought, she darted toward the underground palace. Xiaoyan and Mu Yingying continued forward without any obstacles, following the path opened by Fentian, moving swiftly toward the depths of the underground palace. Underground palace, 5th layer. This place, shrouded in perpetual darkness, was filled with an oppressive, sinister aura. Here lay an enormous cavern, sprawling and jagged, where vile creatures of varied shapes rested motionless along the rocks. The scent of blood permeated the cavern, thick and overpowering, hinting at the life force of countless human experts gathered here. To these creatures, this place was a rare and precious haven. Everyone rise. A scarlet light flashed into the cavern, and a chilling voice echoed within. Blood Demon Envoy, sir? At the sight of the blood-red figure, the creatures, awakened by his shout, looked on in surprise. My lord, what brings you here? Some of the stronger ones could not help but ask. There are human experts approaching. We must cover our tracks and evacuate. Blood Demon Envoy commanded with a surge of his primal energy. The creatures hesitated. Although the Blood Demon Envoy was the mightiest of their kind, this cavern, saturated with the potent blood essence the Xuanling king had crafted, was invaluable to them, and they were loath to leave. Enough. Go now. Or would you rather wait here to be slaughtered by human experts? With a final warning, Blood Demon Envoy vanished, leaving a spatial portal behind for them to escape. What now? The creatures exchanged uneasy glances. Let's move, someone finally shouted, and one by one, they vanished into the void. Such bad luck. This place was perfect for cultivation. Another decade here, and I'd reach 9-star Do D. I was just a year away from breaking through to 8-star Do D. Their voices grumbled in discontent. Reluctant but resigned, they abandoned the cavern, leaving the vast, blood-soaked space desolate and eerily empty. After breaching the fourth layer, Zhu Jin was startled to find the two usual guardians nowhere in sight. Those two just left. They've been guarding me here for ages, he muttered in surprise. 1 turn 9-star Do Di, Xianyin, and perfect 8-star Do Di, Xianyang. Xian Muqing, though visibly weakened, was recovering well now that the blood curse had been lifted. Those ranks, 1 turn 9-star Do Di and perfect 8-star Do Di, Fantan chuckled. It's clear the Xuanling King's strength isn't to be underestimated. Onward, to the 5th layer, Ling Mingsheng, smiling happily, scooped up Xian Muqing and headed toward the next level. Put me down. There are so many people watching. Xian Muqing blushed, quickly wriggling free from his hold and pouting. Hee, Ling Mingsheng laughed sheepishly, realizing his boldness. The 5th layer of this underground palace feels different, Fan Tian observed, glancing down toward the entrance to the next level. Senior, I can't say exactly what lies within the 5th layer, Xian Muqing replied cautiously, though she withheld the fact that she was the Xuanling King's sister. It's said the Xuanling King was once a benevolent ruler, she continued, yet after constructing the underground palace, he changed beyond recognition. Her words left the others, particularly Ling Mingsheng, taken aback. When Xian Muqing met Ling Mingsheng, it was during the extermination of her entire clan. They quickly pledged their lives to one another, leaving Ling Mingsheng completely unaware of Xian Muqing's true identity from the very beginning. How do you know? Zhu Jin was taken aback. The crowd had never doubted Xian Muqing's identity. Even Fan Tian was unaware of these matters, so how could Xian Muqing know? The two guardians mentioned it, Xian Muqing replied with a playful smile. Oh, I see. The crowd, mostly seasoned warriors, readily accepted this explanation. It seems there's something deeply hidden on the 5th level of this underground palace, Fan Tian murmured. Furthermore, the 5th level seems to share characteristics with the blood curse we just dispelled, Xian Muqing added thoughtfully. Let's go. With Xian Muqing's words, the group surged toward the 5th level of the underground palace. Leaving the 4th level behind, they descended a damp, shadowy staircase toward the 5th level. The passage is getting darker and more humid, Elder Qing remarked. We must be several thousand meters below ground by now, Mu Shuzi commented with a faint smile. There's the entrance. The drowsy two elders of heaven and earth pointed ahead. As soon as they spoke, everyone transformed into streaks of light, darting toward the entryway. With a whoosh, the group swept through the passage, easily reaching the 5th level of the underground palace. However, as they arrived, expressions soured across their faces. Damn it! What on earth is the Xuanling King doing? This much blood! It must have taken the essence of hundreds of powerful individuals to amass, Elder Qing muttered, standing atop a blood-stained rock, inhaling the sickening stench. He looked up with a troubled expression. Passing through the narrow entry, they discovered the 5th level, a colossal cavern filled with twisting pathways. Blood had soaked into the very rock, and some crevices still oozed fresh blood. Elder Qing's keen senses identified it immediately. It was all human blood. Stay alert. Ling Mingsheng instinctively shielded Xian Muqing, scanning their surroundings cautiously. How could this? What could have led to this? What is my brother even doing? Xian Muqing was shocked, visibly disturbed, not knowing what her brother, the Xuanling King, had been up to. Ever since the extraterritorial evil clan had invaded during her childbirth, her brother's demeanor had changed drastically, lending weight to her earlier suspicions. There's definitely a trace of the Blood Fiend clan here. Fan Tian's voice was steady but dark as he eyed the blood-soaked cavern with a knowing look, sensing secrets buried within. Yet there's no trace of any Blood Fiend presence here. They must have escaped, Fan Tian noted after a pause. With his Do-Xian-level abilities, Fan Tian could sense that while the cavern was vast, no life forms lingered within. The Blood Fiend clan is a sworn enemy of the Xuanling continent. They once tried to corrupt our lands, but were repelled by the might of mystic Three Heavens and our warriors. Even their second-in-command, Blood Demon Left Guardian, was imprisoned in the desert mountains until Xiao Yin finally annihilated him with the sacred flame. Even so, remnants of the Blood Fiend clan still lurk in hiding. This fifth level could be one of their sanctuaries, Zhu Jin frowned. It's no secret that the Xuanling royal family is linked with Solomon and even the Soul clan. But when did they start dealing with the Blood Fiend clan? This fifth level seems custom-built as a haven for the extraterritorial evil clan. It's hard to believe the Xuanling royal family isn't involved, Elder Qing said pointedly. This mission to rescue Yanji may be far more complex than we anticipated, Fan Tian mused aloud. Pavilion Master, Zhu Jin and his companions responded cautiously. My mind is made up. No need to dissuade me. Since we've come this far, we must push forward. But prepare for the worst. If our mission fails, we must ensure that Incense Pavilion's strength endures, Fan Tian instructed firmly. But the group began to protest when Fan Tian raised a hand to silence them. They understood well the threat posed by the extraterritorial evil clan, and the power of the Xuanling royal family was formidable. If these two forces had indeed allied, the consequences would be dire. Even for someone as powerful as Fan Tian, there was trepidation. Let's go. Time waits for no one. That place must be the final trial for saving Yin Qi, Fan Tian said, without pausing. He went straight toward the next level. Meanwhile, Xin Muqing silently prayed, hoping her brother hadn't colluded with the extraterritorial evil clan.